It's the end of the day with Ray. Hello, my friends. Well, this morning I came in, I lit the Sharp Interactive fireplace. I hadn't been in the studio in a couple of weeks. I just wanted to do an update. I had some exciting stuff happen the last couple of weeks. So last week I was at IT Nation, Orlando, Florida. Folks, what an amazing event. 4,000 attendees, 150 plus vendors. Had an opportunity to talk to MSPs of all different sizes, talk to the vendors that support those MSPs, and I'll share more on that in future episodes. This week I was with Sharp at the Sharp Roadshow in Philadelphia. Folks, what an amazing time that was. I got to tell you a story about the Sharp Roadshow in a second. But folks, on Monday, I'm going to do an episode around the Sharp Roadshow, and I'll share my thoughts of what I learned from Sharp at the Roadshow. So tune in Monday for that. But I got to tell you, so I'm going to the hotel, and I checked in, and I go downstairs where they're having the event there at the hotel, and they have the table where you register to get your badge. And I'm registering, and the lady behind the counter there, she says, hey, you need to scan this QR code. There's a waiver that pops up on my phone because the event is axe throwing. We're going to go to a bar, and we're going to throw axes. I'm thinking, okay, this is kind of cool. If you're going to throw axes at an event, where there's drinking involved and it's in a bar, you probably want to have a waiver. Whether you're Sharp or any other corporation, you got to have the waiver, right? And so I'm thinking to myself, this is kind of cool. But here's what was interesting about this. When they had me sign the waiver, they actually showed a QR code. I showed my phone, it popped up, and I signed it on my phone. I was thinking to myself, well, right there, they got my attention. I was so happy to see that from Sharp. Because Sharp, they just kicked off a bunch of A3 copy machines, right? MFPs. I'm thinking to myself, if that had been any other vendor in our space, you would have walked up there. They said, oh, by the way, we're having an axe throwing event and you need to sign the waiver. Hang on a second. They would have printed it out right in front of us, had us sign it, and then they would have had to scan it back in through the MFP so they would all feel good that the MFPs and scanners were still relevant. But Sharp, they knew better. Let's keep this in the digital landscape where most documents stay anyway. So that was kind of cool. I was glad to be able to do that. But folks, that waiver thing really started making me think because something funny happened. Okay, so you sign the waiver thing in the morning. This was like, I don't know, probably 9 o'clock when I signed that. And the rest of the day, up until the time we went and thrown the axes, people asked me if I signed a waiver. Like, not just the Sharp people, but I'm talking about the hotel people. I walk out the front door, take a break, and the doorman says, hey, did you sign that waiver for the axe throwing Ray? I'm thinking to myself, well, he knew my name because I had a name tag on, but I'm thinking, did Sharp tell the people in the hotel to make sure I signed that waiver? Because I'm thinking Sharp probably thought, we're bringing to the end of the day with Ray to the Roadshow. He's kind of controversial, and if we're going to be in a bar where people are throwing axes, we better make sure he signs that waiver. I started to think, am I the only one that even had to sign the waiver? But I guess not. But folks, really, I went to the bar, I wanted a beer, the bartender, hey, did you sign the waiver for the axe throwing? So I had this question asked to me a lot, and then I started thinking to myself, you know what? I need a waiver. At the end of the day with Ray needs a waiver. This was a great idea that I got from the Sharp Roadshow. So what I'm going to do is I'm developing it right now. So we're going to have a QR code, okay? I'm going to pull the QR code up on the Sharp Interactive board. Then the people in the audience, they just take their phone, they capture that QR code, a waiver will pop up. And basically the purpose of the waiver is this. So when you agree that if you watch the show and you get upset about something, you want to start crying or whatever it is, that you really can't do that because you signed a waiver. So it's the waiver basically going to say, if you watch the show, try to be a big boy and get over it. And then if you don't get over it, let's say you watch the show, you sign the waiver, but then you start calling up my sponsors and stuff, complaining, trying to take away my money. And then I can just send the sponsor hey, no, wait a minute, that person signed a waiver. You see, I think it could help. I just got to kind of put the pieces together, but I think I'm getting close with that. So thanks a lot for that idea, Sharp. It was kind of interesting. But axe throwing, can you imagine? I'm sure they're all sitting in the conference room, right? It was probably Bob Medeo that came up with that. Someone else probably said, we're going to be in Philadelphia. Why don't we go to Independence Hall? And Bob Medeo's probably like, are you crazy? We want to throw axes. What a great event. I got to be honest with you. When I first heard that, I thought, this is the craziest thing I've ever heard. A bunch of people in a bar drinking, we're going to throw axes around. But I will tell you, I got a bullseye. Second time I threw it. I wasn't going to throw it because, I'm not that good at throwing stuff. If you ever saw me play baseball, you'd realize I probably shouldn't be throwing an axe. But anyway, I decided I would give it a shot because of the pure pressure, people trying to get me to throw the axe. And so I decided I'm going to do it, but I'm going to get the teacher. They have these teachers running around helping you learn how to do this. Because it's kind of like holding a golf club. You hold it a certain way, you put it over your head, and you fling the damn thing. But I did everything that that person told me to do. Everything. The second shot, bullseye. The first time I didn't do everything that person said. Second time I did everything that person said, I got a bullseye. Kind of reminded me that if you listen to the person that knows what they're doing and you do exactly what they say, it'll work for you. But if you try to wing it, you try to do things outside that scope, it won't work. And so I think there's an important lesson there. Maybe that's why Sharp took us to the axe throwing event. Maybe that was a lesson they wanted us to get out of it. Everything has a lesson. Because if you went around and you asked all those people that got a bullseye, and I did that for the most part, you'll find out that most of them listened to exactly what the instructor told them to do. The ones that winged it, did it on their own, well, they didn't get the bullseye. An important lesson there. I want to thank Sharp for that because, if they hadn't taken us axe throwing, maybe some people wouldn't learn that lesson. And I also like the lesson about the waiver. I think that could help me a lot on the end of the day with Ray. But folks, there's so much going on in both industries, whether they're IT or whether they're print. And I think that the actors in both those industries, they really have to pay attention to the end users. And I want everybody to start thinking about digital infrastructure. I'm going to talk a lot about it over the next couple of weeks. But digital infrastructure is what it's all about. Whether it's in your personal life or whether it's in your business life, it's about your digital infrastructure. I mean, think about what we do in our personal lives and our homes. We're obsessed with having a perfect digital infrastructure. If our internet goes down for 5 minutes, we're ready to explode. If we can't use all the devices through Bluetooth in our homes, we're ready to explode. We have to have a technology, user-friendly infrastructure in our personal lives. And we're presented newer opportunities all the time about how to advance our digital infrastructure in our home. Well, guess what? In business, it's the same thing. And more of our customers are determining their experience with your company in that digital intersection. I've talked about this for a long time. I truly believe that customer experience is found in the intersection between the digital and physical world. And over the next year or two, all service providers and product providers have to start thinking about that intersection. When I think about still arguing with print dealers about whether or not they should have e-commerce, it's almost ridiculous. I don't even want to talk to those people anymore. If we got to talk you into doing e-commerce, you're probably not really a reality of existence any much longer anyway. Because your end users are going to want to be able to navigate with you in a digital landscape. Not for everything, but for enough. And if you don't do it, you're going to lose too much revenue and profit. You have to figure out how to live in both worlds. So folks, think about digital infrastructure. Think about your personal life and all the things you do and all the comforts you have around a digital infrastructure. And then start thinking about your end users and your end users' businesses. And what are you going to do to help them navigate in that digital infrastructure? It's extremely important because it's not your granddad's copier company anymore, and it's not your granddad's IT services company anymore. It's about bringing the future to the present and doing it now. Just some things to think about, my friends. I look forward to Monday's episode where I recap the Sharp Roadshow. But until then, remember this: status quo is the killer of all that'll be invented. Don't get stuck in status quo and have a fantastic weekend.